Welcome, viewer, for turning into First News Broadcast TV channel, where we dispense helpful to political and global awareness on both former and current affairs, building community news revolutionary commitment of our world. All right, we move on to American Presidential Campaign 2024. FBI investigating Trump rally attack as attempted assassination and act of domestic terror, but hasn't identified motive. Volunteer fire company remembers rally shooting victim. Wisconsin GOP chairman chokes up talking about assassination attempt. Biden and First Lady extend deepest condolences to family of the man who was killed in the Trump rally shooting. Trump posted a brief message on social media after Biden spoke, saying, "Unite America." Local police officer encountered shooter before he fired towards Trump, AP sources say. Biden's latest remarks on the Trump rally shooting. Trump says he'll be traveling to Milwaukee for GOP convention on Sunday afternoon. Biden directs probe into Trump rally shooting to be thorough and swift. Biden says assassination attempt on Trump is contrary to everything we stand for as a nation. NBC interview with President Biden will happen in Washington now instead of Texas. Biden receives a Situation Room briefing on the Trump rally shooting. President Biden postpones planned trip to Texas on Monday after Trump rally shooting. Trump survives assassination attempt at campaign rally as it unfolded. The FBI is investigating Saturday's shooting at a Trump rally in Pennsylvania as an attempted assassination and act of domestic terror. However, authorities say a motive has not yet been identified. We'll be with you shortly, and thanks for watching.
There's no place in America for this kind of violence. It's sick. It's sick. It's one of the reasons why we have to unite this country. We cannot allow for this to be happening. We cannot be like this. We cannot condone this.
Here are the facts as we know them. It's not yet clear whether former President Trump was grazed by a bullet or shards of glass, but he was not otherwise injured. One bystander was killed. 2 others were hit and are listed in critical condition at a hospital in Pittsburgh. Police said the victims were all men, but their names have not been released. The 20-year-old gunman was shot and killed by a member of the Secret Service. The rally had only just started, with the former president addressing a chart on immigration numbers when suddenly pops were heard. Some witnesses said it sounded like firecrackers. Trump's hand moved to his right ear like he'd been bitten by something. The bullet had flown so close to his head that New York Times campaign photographer Doug Mills captured it. The Secret Service agents rushed to the stage, covering Trump like a jacket, pushing him to the ground. As he was being led away from the stage, a defiant Trump raised his fist into the air to cheers of the crowd. This morning, Trump posted on his social media account, "God alone who prevented the unthinkable from happening," and said, "It is more important than ever we stand united and show our true character as Americans." One question that is already being asked is, how did the gunman get so close to the former president? He positioned himself on top of a building about 200 to 300 feet from the stage, and with a clear shot. President Biden returned to the White House last night and spoke with Trump by phone. He condemned the attack, saying there's no place in America for this kind of violence. It's sick. CBS News congressional correspondent Scott MacFarlane was at Trump's rally in Pennsylvania and heard the gunshots ring out. Scott, good morning.
John, a monumental, staggering failure. What should have been a uniquely safe event. Former president wounded, one of his rally-goers killed, others injured, and all of this with untold damage to the fiber and fabric of our country.
And you know, that's a little bit old, that chart. That chart's a couple of months old.
Minutes into a rally for the presumptive Republican presidential nominee, shots rang out. Donald Trump could be seen grabbing the side of his head before being swarmed by Secret Service. Erin Autenreith was in the front row.
When he turned to the right, I could see the blood from the top of the ear to the bottom.
It's not yet clear whether Trump was hit by a bullet or glass, but blood could be seen across the side of his face as Secret Service agents ushered him off stage. Trump said in a social media post he was injured when a bullet pierced the upper part of his right ear. New York Times photographer Doug Mills captured the moment the bullet flew past Trump's head. He could be seen raising a fist in the air as Secret Service agents escorted him to a nearby motorcade.
He started shooting. Bow, 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 bow. About 4 to 5 shots rang out.
New video from TMZ shows the gunman firing at the former president before being shot and killed by a Secret Service sniper. The FBI has identified the shooter as 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks of nearby Bethel Park, Pennsylvania, seen here accepting his high school diploma in 2022. A motive for the shooting is still unknown.
Right now, we're tracking down all leads and doing all interviews and tracking anything that we can regarding suspicious locations, vehicles, locations, interviewing individuals, so it's all related to this event.
Law enforcement sources tell CBS News crooks fired an AR-style rifle from the top of a shed about 200 to 300 feet away from where Trump was speaking. At least one spectator was killed, and 2 others were injured.
Somebody over there was screaming, he's been shot, he's been shot. So I made my way over. I said, I'm an emergency department physician. Let me help you. The guy had spun around and was jammed between the benches. He had a headshot here. There was lots of blood, and he had brain matter.
Witnesses said they spotted the gunman and even pointed him out to security before he started shooting.
I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, why is Trump still speaking? Why have they not pulled him off the stage? I'm standing there pointing at him for 2 or 3 minutes. Secret Service is looking at us from the top of the barn. I'm pointing at that roof, just standing there like this. And next thing you know, 5 shots rang out.
Law enforcement defended their security preparations at a press conference late Saturday.
In their defense, I mean, what I would want to say is it is incredibly difficult to have a venue open to the public and to secure that against any possible threat, against a very determined attacker.
Mr. President, what did you say to Trump?
President Biden returned to the White House overnight, and aides for both men said they spoke on the phone.
There's no place in America for this kind of violence. It's sick. It's sick. It's one of the reasons why we have to unite this country. We cannot allow for this to be happening. We cannot be like this. We cannot condone this.
This was expected to be Trump's final stump speech before the Republican National Convention begins Monday in Milwaukee. Minutes before he walked on stage, multiple sources said Trump was poised to potentially announce his pick for vice president, and that in recent days he'd met with Florida Senator Marco Rubio, North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum, and Ohio Senator J.D. Vance, who updated reporters on the former president's condition.
I've heard he's doing okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
John, in his social media post, the former president says his prayers are going to those who were wounded on those rafters behind him.
Scott, you were there. Tell us about where this rally was taking place, what it felt like. I mean, this is, regular old politics, retail politics done on a weekend. It is often a joyous and an atmosphere of celebration and delight.
Yeah, Butler County is one county north of Pittsburgh. It's a heavy Trump political county. This is in one of the more rural stretches of Butler County. It was at a farm event center, the type of place you go to see a farm show. I saw so many families there, so many children there. And when the shots rang out, John, those of us who were on those elevated press rafters with the cameras had the luxury of jumping down and sheltering beneath the rafters. We had a place to hide. But in that crowd, standing room only, shoulder to shoulder, people had nowhere to hide. They could try to get on the ground. They could try. And what I can't unhear are the screams of some of those children, the parents of those children, people colliding with each other with nowhere to go as shots rang out of what was supposed to be the safest place around.
Scott, thank you. Joining us now is Aaron Ottenreith, who was at the rally and was an eyewitness to the attack. Aaron, thank you so much for joining us. Tell us your experience.
I had volunteered and arrived 7 o'clock in the morning. So the volunteers normally, and I checked in the media. So I got first row seats I was directly in front of President Trump. I would say I was 15 to 20 feet away from him. And I heard the pops. It sounded pop, pop, pop like fireworks. And I'm thinking somebody in the neighborhood is having a party and they're shooting off fireworks. Then Trump crouched a little bit, but the 4 Secret Service jumped on the stage, pushed him down to the ground, and then pushed all the reporters down that were down on the ground, too. There was like a pile of 5 of them. And then we just didn't know what happened. Then the guys with the black long guns came on the stage and said, okay, clear right, clear left, lift him. They lifted him up. They lifted him up straight. I saw his face. I knew he was okay because his face wasn't graven, or I saw blood on the right cheek. And Trump said, I have to get my shoes on. So they must have fallen off when they pushed him to the ground. Then he turned to the right to exit down the steps. That's when I saw the blood on the ear. It wasn't gushing, but the picture that they're showing now, he was like 5 more steps closer to those steps. That's when there's more blood. Immediately, there wasn't that much blood, and I was thinking he got hurt by being pushed to the ground. Then they whisked him off in the black sedan. Then a couple minutes later, none of us really thought there was a shooting until I saw a gentleman who had spoken earlier at the rally who came behind our row, and I saw the blood on his shirt. His name was Rico Elmore. He was near somebody that was shot, and they were exiting. That was the first time we realized. But the amazing thing was not one of us ran, crouched, did anything. We all were only concerned about the president.
Aaron, afterwards, after this drama that you just so accurately described, how have you been thinking about it? Did you talk with other people who were there at the rally with you? What did you make of this moment that you were witness to?
Well, there was a lot of talk because I didn't leave right away. I stayed. I had some water because I came alone. I mean, this was a very safe place. And my car was only the fourth one in the parking lot, so I knew I wasn't going to get out anytime soon. I had seen on people's phones, like, pictures of the shooter. Somebody saw him on the ground, dead. I mean, people had all this stuff on their phones. It was amazing. I was just in the front right in the beginning, staring at everybody coming onto the stage, looking to see if there was any family. The gentleman that came on the stage before Trump was Dan Scavino. I knew he was the only one there. And McCormick was supposed to speak because Trump said we have, McCormick in the audience. Should we bring him up now or bring him up later? I mean, he could have been up on the stage there. And he said, no, we'll bring him up later. And then that's when he put the graphic up about the border crossings. Now, it was to the right or the left. So he was pointing. I guess his head was turned. And that's how the bullet missed him. I mean, it was just, of course, things are so fast and you don't hardly process it at one time. But I mean, there was no fear for my life or anybody else's. It was just concern. I just wanted him to get up off the ground, to see him, and he actually stood up on his own accord, I have to say, and walked down those steps.
And Erin, quickly before I let you go, would you attend another political rally like that again in the future?
Yes, but I'm sure there'll be bulletproof glass around him. I say from now on, I would. That was my 6th rally, so I had been there many times before, so I kind of knew. I knew he was coming when the sharpshooters got on the building behind him, but they were facing that way where the shots came from. There was 2 of them, and we saw them. It's always like I said, okay, now the motorcade is arriving because they're up there and they're in position.
Erin Henry, thank you so much for your story, and we're glad you're safe.
Thanks, John. Bye.
There are big questions this morning about how a gunman was able to get a clear line of sight at the former president yesterday. A gunman was on the roof of a building several hundred feet from the lectern where Trump was speaking. Joining us now to talk about security at the rally is former Deputy Director of the Secret Service and CBS News consultant, A.T. Smith. A.T., thank you so much for joining us. What's the first set of questions that come right to your mind about the set of facts as you know them?
Well, I think obviously with the FBI now leading this investigation, there will be quite an extraordinary amount of time involved in this. They will have some answers really quickly, but they're going to have to take this step by step, evaluate everything that the advance team and the Secret Service agents on the ground did to see just what went wrong. As you can see, the agents who surrounded the president immediately reacted in the way that they're trained to react day in, day out. You saw the deployment of the counter-assault team, which they then cover those agents who were protecting the former president. And then you saw after a short period of time, they were able to take him to the armored limousine. The reason they waited and put him on the ground was to make sure the injuries were not more significant than it has turned out to be. And so medically, they want to make sure that they're not going to cause further injury by moving him too quickly. In terms of the assailant, if you think of security and the plan that goes into an outdoor event, there's 3 concentric rings of security: an outer perimeter, an middle perimeter, and an inner perimeter. Outside of that farther outer perimeter is what the counter sniper team is for, and those are the folks that you saw on top of the building who ultimately killed the assailant. Their job is to survey that area beyond the secure area, if you will, up to 1,000 yards. So there will have to be some questions asked about that. They did react very quickly, and then obviously the assailant was taken out, but not quick enough to prevent this incident.
A.T., let me focus on this idea that there may have been some bystanders who saw the shooter on a roof, tried to relay word. What is the posture that sniper team or anyone else in the Secret Service is supposed to take when they get those kinds of reports? I mean, you could imagine them being a distraction. You could also imagine them being just the kind of information they need. How would they have processed that kind of information if we accept as true, and we have to say this, that those reports were in fact relayed to the authorities?
Well, if they were, obviously it takes a few seconds for people to respond. If they reported something to the local police or an agent at one of the posts that he may have been on, obviously there'd be radio traffic to try to pin that down, locate the individual, and go to him and see what they needed to do. There has been some reporting, and I heard that this individual may have been on the outside of the perimeter well before the event started, and that someone reported to the local police that he was acting suspicious. I don't have any more information beyond that, other than there might have been a report, and that the local police may have been trying to locate him, up until the point of this happening.
Very briefly, A.T., at the end here, if there's one question you would want answered at the hearings that are certainly going to be on this, what would that one question be?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
If there was one question you want answered at the hearings that are surely to follow this, what would that one question you'd want answered be?
Well, I think the biggest question right now is how did he get there, and how did he get there with that firearm? Why was the advance not out into that distance, if you will? And I think, the question to be asked will be, was the view of the counter-sniper officers obstructed in some way? Was there a delay in the reporting? I mean, the bigger question seems to be that right now, simply because that's where the shot came from.
A.T. Smith, thank you so much for your expertise. Let's bring in CBS News Chief Election and Campaign Correspondent Robert Costa with the latest from the Trump campaign. Bob, good morning. What are you hearing? What's the latest from your sources?
Good morning, John. There continues to be a sense of shock inside of former President Donald Trump's inner circle, but it is notable that as of this morning, the Republican Party, the Trump campaign, carrying on with their plans for the convention. CBS News has just obtained a memo from top Trump campaign advisors that say they are now calling for what they are calling an expanded armed security presence at the convention in Milwaukee, set to begin tomorrow on Monday with 24/7 officers on site. They're also making additional security assessments. The Trump campaign also advising some of its employees to stay away from its offices as they continue to evaluate the situation. This is a fluid moment politically as well. Former President Trump about to name his running mate in the coming day or so at the convention. There are still plans to do that. This is a person behind the scenes, I'm told, who is telling his advisors, push forward with having the convention.
All right, Robert Costa with the latest from the Trump campaign there. Thank you so much, Bob. Next, we'll head to Milwaukee, where CBS Mornings co-host Tony Dokoupil has more reaction from people arriving for the Republican National Convention. The attempted assassination of former President Trump came 2 days before the scheduled start of the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee, where he's expected to accept his party's nomination for the 2024 presidential election. Tony Dokoupil joins us from the convention arena with the reaction there. Tony, good morning.
John, good morning to you. Everything this morning looks exactly the same, but feels very different. And we witnessed that change live right in front of us at the airport here in Milwaukee yesterday as delegates and attendees landed and then learned the news.
Of all things, a jazz band greeted Republicans arriving into Milwaukee.
Finally got our bags. Oh, here, let me help you.
And the mood was jubilant.
Hey!
Are
you in town for the convention?
Channel, where we dispense helpful to global awareness on current awareness and formers, building community news revolutionary commitment of our world. All right, we move on to the news headline and updates. Please, viewers, if it is your first time on First News Broadcast TV channel, do us a favor to share to your friends and family, like and subscribe. See you again. Thanks for watching.